what we want to do with this hour is basically have more of a dialogue with you in the audience. So we are going to invite questions very early on. We'll just do a 15-minute thing, and then you can line up over here, and we'll do that. Because I'm sure that, you know, if you've been following our material for a while, so a lot of people write to us, and we don't have a chance to write back. So this is an opportunity for that. I will say that most of our new information, I mean, if we get information, it goes on the website. That's basically what's happening. So you're as up to date as we are, pretty much. There are some areas that, you know, either we haven't been able to go into detail because we've been told that we'd be killed if we did. But I have to tell you that most of those times, I've basically, in some way, form, or fashion, we actually have revealed the material. If you were listening closely, you would have caught on to some of those things. And we might do that again today, just briefly, you know, touch on some things that we've been told not to tell you. Like one of those things, I'm live on the internet, right? So if I die tomorrow, you'll know that whatever. Don't take Tamiflu. It's not just the vaccine that'll kill you. Okay, we have that from a very important source. It's not just the Tamiflu also. I hope I can't get sued. That's my opinion, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not qualified to give medical advice. And there's another remedy out there. The name I don't know the brand name, but apparently it's as contaminated as the Tamiflu is. So sad to say that some people, I'm not going to name their names, out on the internet are recommending Tamiflu. But buyer beware. What's going on here?
It's not, the PowerPoint's not coming up.
It's a PDF, turn it to a PDF.
No, I know what, go ahead and open what you need, but this is stretched.
Oh, that doesn't matter. I don't have to stretch as long as you can see it. It must be where you go.
Is this it?
Yeah, that's it.
So then do
Full screen. There should be an option. Yeah.
It's perfect.
That's fine. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so we can zoom by telling people, there was not one person here that's not familiar with us. I don't think so. Basically, I'm going to zip by our mission and all this sort of thing. But this is where I want to start with the questions. Okay? These are the real questions that we're asking here. And some of the people that have been on stage are basically alluding to all these things. Rich Dolan did in his talk, and so did Alex Collier. The bottom line is that not all ETs are friendly and have your best interests at heart, that we're definitely being visited. That's a no-brainer. And so the question is, what is their agenda? And who are they? And so that in that area, there is no expert source, and you can't even go to Black Projects and get some definitive document that's out on the internet and say you did research and therefore you found out the truth. So these are the issues we're dealing with, is providence of information, yes, but if you want to be mentored by the good ETs and prepare yourself for surviving and for humanity's sovereignty, then you're really talking about contact. And that, therefore, you have to have responsible contact. You need to not be deceived. You need to use discernment. And these are the issues that we're facing. And how do you do that? So we want to address some of that. We also want to talk about some recent attacks on Camelot and what that means, not because we're going to go into particulars. Actually, we're not. We're not going to name names. But what we want to say here is that there is a motion or a movement out there against what we're doing here, because you guys we've reached what we think is critical mass. Okay, so that means... And that's thanks to you. Okay, that means that right now, I don't know what our numbers are on the internet, but every day we have around 30,000 visitors. Is that, again, correct?
Between 30 and 50.
30 and 50, okay. So that's a day. I mean, that's like, well, to me it sounds big. I know when George Green initially talked to us, he was talking about where critical mass would be, like how many thousand critical mass would be, or even million. And we've had 9 million visitors to our site, over 9 million. And that doesn't even count the sites out there that have grabbed us and made mirror sites and all kinds of things. So, so that means that the word is getting out and the world is beginning to wake up in a big way. And then there is a counter motion against that that is trying to put out disinfo about us. So one of the reasons we're going to open this up for questions, you just ask us the hard questions. It's cool. Let's have dialogue. And, you know, it's great that you bought tickets, and we really appreciate your support. And for those of you who donate to us, you are keeping us going. That's just the bottom line. You know, I don't care what the powers that be say. You know, you guys are paying my rent, and you're paying for this right now, and you're paying for whatever we do. Anytime we have an interview that comes out, audio, you name it. We don't get paid to do the radio show either. So, you know, we're just dedicating our whole lives to this cause, and that's what it's about.
Let me clarify something here when Kerry says the donations are paying her rent. I get emails usually every month. I need more volume on this mic here.
Use this for now.
Okay. I get emails from Kerry pretty much every month, and sometimes twice every month, saying, I do not know how I'm going to pay next month's rent. Okay. Next month's rent always somehow gets paid, and I know that some of you will have at some point in your life experienced the same problem. Quite a long time ago, we gave up worrying about this, but the point of this opportunity to talk to you, and also to talk to the people who are watching on the net or will see this later in some form, is that we really deeply thank you for your support in every way. We are not able to respond to all the messages that we get. We do read them. We thank you deeply for the donations, because every dollar counts. We're not doing a fundraiser here. We just want to acknowledge it. And it really, really matters, and we're aware of this all the time. And somebody who's a millionaire who sends us $1,000, sometimes it doesn't touch us. Now, I need to be very careful what I'm saying, but I remember once I got a donation from a 13-year-old boy in Poland who sent $2, and that's all he had, you know. And that kind of thing really moves us, because that means a lot, and it's the energy that we communicate that is as nourishing to us as the physical stuff. We know that you understand all of this, and the energy that keeps us going also is in the form of people who write to us to say that we've touched their lives, and sometimes even transformed their lives. And some people have said this to us, both together or individually, this weekend. And it just completely blows us away, because when we started 3 years ago, we never had any strategic plan. We never had any sort of sense of how the future would roll out. We just planted a little seed in the garden because we had this seed in our hands, because we manifested it in our minds about something that we could do together. I think you all know the story. And the message here in this, and in a minute I'm going to give the mic back to Kerry. The message here is not, look at us, we've done this, we're on stage, you're there, we've got something to teach you. This is why I gave up teaching, because I realized that I had more to learn from the kids than the other way around, you know. It's not that kind of relationship. It's not that at all. The fact is that we're all in this together, and if there's anything that we want you to take away from this, it's the fact that all of you have got some sense of mission, some sense of purpose. There's something that you can do. You may not know what it is yet, but you probably can feel it right now. If I'm talking to each of you individually, what is it that you are here to do? Just start. You never know where it's going to take you, and it might happen far more quickly than you could ever imagine, especially given some of the conversations that we've been hearing about mentoring and support, and we can tell you 100 stories about things that have happened to us that are just so magical because we were dumb enough to believe that it was possible and we didn't think that we had to plan it first.
There's interesting, I had a very short chat with someone in the ladies' room right before I came over here, and they were saying that they were really shocked by our Stephen Greer interview, the reaction out there, as we were actually. It was above and beyond anything we ever imagined, just not only on the internet, on YouTube with comments, but things sent directly to us, both on the positive and the negative side. It was amazing. And what I want to say about that is, and what we need to look at there, this person was saying how people had been triggered, especially what happens is that if you're mind controlled and you have a picture of the world and your picture gets assailed by some information, new information that comes in, the first thing you want to do is attack the messengers, number one. And number two is you're gonna fight the message. And so that's what's going on out there. There are a huge number of people that don't want to know certain elements of what is or may be the absolute truth. And obviously, if you were here with Alex Collier, you know what I'm talking about. And these things are hard to deal with, okay? Because we're here on the earth. You want to have a nice, beautiful view of the future. And when you talk to David Wilcock, at the end of that, I'm sure you will. And we love David, and we agree with him for the most part. But there are elements. It's really a matter of emphasis. It's a matter of knowing the truth and then dealing with it to make a new world. Because that's what's before us. We want to build a new world, and we're doing it, actually. One ground crew member at a time. So anyway, here we go. Basically, we want to deal with solutions, okay, to start at the bottom. And what's the plot? And once you know the plot, then you begin to form your own, so you can make an educated guess, an educated plan about what to do with your future and what to do, who to talk to, where to put your energy, because you have a limited time on Earth. And on top of that, we have a limited time as things are ramping up between now and 2012 and going into 2017, you know, up until 2017 is what I understand to be the window. Seems to be a consensus there. That doesn't mean it's gospel, but it feels right. And that's actually something you're going to have to get used to, I think, in the shift, which is something that I called flying blind. At times, you have to fly blind. That doesn't mean you are blind. It means you can't see straight ahead of you as to what the next thing is and the next thing. You have to actually make a plan, use your intent, and then just put it out there. And so that's what Bill's talking about with doing whatever it is you can. And we just always want to go back to the fact that when we started Camelot, we looked at each other at Tintagel. We were both very moved by the connection we'd made and the fact that we both were completely aligned in what needed to happen. We wanted disclosure, period. We wanted the truth out there, period. That's it. And we decided we'll put our skills together, we'll go out and interview whistleblowers, and boom, we did it. And we didn't even know whether 2 people would come to the website. And now look at this. It's crazy. It's amazing. So there you have it. That's within all your capabilities. We didn't do anything really unusual. Actually, we broke rules more often than we followed them. So if there's any one rule to follow, it's to break the rules. That would be my advice to you, because if there's a rule, then it's been put forth by the Illuminati, by the Matrix, that's been in place for ages and ages, and it's not working for us as humanity. It is not. It's not working for us. I mean, the most basic thing, this is a square room, has fluorescent lights. These are not good for you. This is not a good environment, I'm sorry to say. It's not the worst, but it is not good. We are not that stupid, okay? We put our children into schools. They sit under fluorescent lights all day long. They're not outdoors. They don't have healthy food. You name it, okay? Are you going to get an intelligent being 20 years later? Or are you going to get a robot who basically sits and watches TV and drinks beer, etc.? You got to look at that. One thing I noticed when I started working in corporate America is I found this fascinating. Executives would walk down a hallway, lower level executives, okay? They would walk down a hallway that actually sort of hug the edge. It was fascinating. Basically, they were used to sort of crunching themselves down and kind of getting out of the way of someone coming in the other direction. God forbid they would confront somebody. God forbid they would, you know, that their aura would be so out there that they might be in the way. So you've been taught these things. They're very subliminal messages going into your head day after day. And all of us have that. It doesn't matter how enlightened you are at this moment. It's still coming back at you all the time, over and over again. It's like you really need to keep reawakening yourself. And some people wake up and go back to sleep. It's just too much work. George Green has talked about that. It's fascinating. That's a fascinating dynamic. It happens with whistleblowers. And that's something that we are intimately involved with, as you know, and it's a really interesting dynamic. But what you have to do is honor the courage that initially brought them to us, to come out and to talk to you. And that way, even non-verbally, you are giving that person the okay to do it again, to come forward with more information. And a lot of times you can't get that information by just hitting them over the head and saying more, more, more. You're not like little birds with your mouth open, waiting for manna from heaven to come down and just feed you. The whistleblowers are not just going to feed you information, make it all right, and then you can go along your way. That's not how it is. You need to work for the information. The whole point is to develop yourself as a spiritual being, a spiritual warrior in every way. So it wouldn't work if they just gave us the information. What you want to do is develop the muscles, mental, physical, psychic, the muscles to absolutely go anywhere. That means beyond this universe. Anywhere you want to go. You want to know if there's bases on Mars? My answer to you, go there. You have the ability. Go there. You know, I was writing screenplays, and I know I'm going on for hours, but I was writing screenplays. This is how it started, before Camelot. And I would write, and then I would go research, and I would research and write. And what I found out is I would write a scene in my sci-fi screenplay, and I would go out researching, and I would find that scene was documented by real events. It was amazing. I saw those structures on the moon that Richard Hoagland talks about. I wrote about them before I ever knew who Richard Hoagland was.
You could talk about
Yeah, oh, well, that's, okay. You talk about that. No, but, so what I'm saying is, really, we're all remote viewers. You all have the skill. It's like, if one person can dance, if it's a human, then you can dance. You name it, you can eventually do it, if you put your mind to it. And I don't mean to be rhyming here, but it's real. It's amazing the knowledge you can gain by sending your mind out there, either in your dream time or in normal life. It is absolutely, I just have to tell you, amazing.
Thank you. That was really beautifully put. There are a couple of things which I wanted to say, but because I'm an Englishman, I don't like to interrupt very much. And besides, we've only got one mic, which is probably just as well. Kerry made a very good point indeed about the fact that if whistleblowers fed us information on a kind of conveyor belt, then we would have a different relationship with this information. And I wanted to say something really important, because we're not doing this either, you see. We have to work pretty hard to get our information, but don't you sit and be consumers of what we give you, thinking, well, this must be true because this is what Bill and Kerry say. It's not like that. The whole ethos of how we work is that we are going on our own journey, doing exactly what Kerry has described. And because we happen to have a little camera and we can upload on the internet and we've got a website, we're saying, come along with us and look at the world through our eyes. Explore this information with us. Figure it out with us. See what you think of this person we're talking to, just as we are. The reason why we do the interviews the way we do is because it's the best substitute for you being there in the room with us, when not everyone can do that. Not everyone is in a position to be able to do that. And so we're inviting you along on this journey with us. And that's where the debate begins, because we haven't got it figured out. We're not trying to convince you of things. We'll certainly let you know on an interim basis what it is that we think is going on. But we may be wrong about things, and sometimes people write to us with some very, very smart observations that we listen to very quickly. And we are in this all together. So I don't want you to feel that you are somehow disenfranchised and you are dependent on us to re-enfranchise you with this information that is being denied you from the powers that be. It's not that kind of relationship.
Okay, so what we're basically, I'm just going to run through this pretty quickly. We have done some other presentations. They are on the net, and so even the people listening on the net at the moment can download our other information and get a lot of these slides. But what I want to do is actually pick up on where we left off in Amsterdam, because we gave a presentation in Amsterdam. We had limited time, so we weren't able to go through the whole thing. And so basically, if you just sort of look at these slides as we go through very quickly, these are the things we're dealing with, okay? So we want to talk about the providence of information, and we want to take off on a little further down that road that Rich Dolan was starting down, and that Alex Collier, in a sense, was kind of like a lot further along. And that is that what you get in, especially the exopolitics, UFO community, whatever you want to call it, is you get a lot of derision headed towards channeling. And it's very important to understand that we are all channeling, okay? And the nature of channeling means that your body is a vessel, and that you are a receiver and a transmitter at all times. So you can receive information and you can transmit information, all right? So we cannot deride channelers because you all are involved in that. Inspiration is channeling, okay? Now, if you think you're in touch with you know, a certain kind of being, you just have to use discernment about that. And it's really checking out the information and finding out whether it's positive or not, whether it's really guiding you and doing something positive for you in your life. And it's also not going on the deep end and saying, you know, that this person, these beings are basically telling me what to do, what's going to happen, and so on and so forth, all right? Because if they're dishing out everything for you, you're not using your muscles. And if you're not using your muscles as a being, you become flaccid. You become weak. And the whole idea here is for humanity to become strong. So think about that. If it's too easy, that doesn't mean you're not going to get inspiration, and it doesn't mean you're not going to get flashes with elements of truth. But you could also be flashed at one moment by one being, truth, and by another moment by another being, falsity. And you may think it's coming from the same source. And then there's the powers that be, and their agenda, and what they're beaming at us right this moment. It's incredible what's going on. And the more you tap into it, the more incredible it becomes. And then we're not even talking about the unseen beings. We're talking about just the earthly part of that. So, wow, we're in this, talk about information, we're in a communication vortex with energy of all kinds at all levels. You really need to be a master magus to figure out what the hell's going on. You need to learn. You need to educate yourself on all levels. That means learning all the things that are closed off to you. And so that's really where we're going with this. And we have a lot of people on stage who are channeling today and yesterday. And here's a few names for you. Pretty interesting. These are people who consciously know they're in touch with certain beings, and they're not all the same beings. So that's an interesting aspect as well. Okay, go ahead, Bill.
Okay, I don't know how much, this is an old presentation that we pulled up here because we haven't done a lot of preparation for this. My feeling is that it would be useful to dive into areas of particular interest by having the opportunity to dialogue with people who want to ask specific questions. We want to be a little careful about going into areas of too much specialist detail because it might not be of interest to anybody. But by that, we can probably get a sense for what the audience is interested in. Do we want to say something about Pete Peterson?
Yeah,
Let's do that.
And if you want to ask questions, you should start lining up over here, and we'll definitely move quickly. So we'll take your questions.
One of the things, let's just say about Pete, we are convinced that he wasn't able to make it here for legitimate reasons. He's a very strong source, and one of the things that sources provide is detailed information. Another thing that sources provide is valuable context to help us understand other information which we're getting. And of course, then what we try and do is we try and present this to you so that you can provide context for yourselves and all the things that you're trying to figure out. And because we've got 300 different people in this room, you're probably trying to figure out 300 different things. And a back reference to something that Kerry said just a couple of minutes ago, some of the messages that we get from people tell us that we have helped people to connect the dots that they have had in their lives ever since childhood, that they've had this intuitive awareness. And when Kerry was talking about channeling or imagination, another word for this is intuition. It's sort of any right brain activity. Because the brain doesn't really do anything. The mind is the interface with the spirit, and this is where things happen. We're talking a very magical, extraordinary, hyperdimensional, let me dare call it a machine here, that certainly doesn't work like a linear computer. It's capable of pulling information out of anywhere and any when. And the rider to all of that is, as Kerry says, it's also a system that can be interfered with by mischievous, invisible beings, wherever those mischievous, invisible beings come from. They can come from other planets, they can come from other dimensions, goodness knows where they can come from. So I support everything that Kerry says, but what Pete Peterson provided us with was context. And we keep on talking about this, that we got 12 hours of off-record audio conversation with him in the presence of David Wilcock, who described it as one of the most interesting weekends he'd spent for quite a long time. And we'd be talking with him over coffee, and he would say, okay, this thing I've just told you about here, you can't release this to the public because they'll kill you. And then half an hour later, he'd be telling us something else, and he said, look, you can't release that to the public because they'll kill me. And then half an hour after that, he'd talk about something and say, you can't release this to the public because they'll kill all of us. And then later still, he'd say, but you can release that because that's okay. And we just got so confused because we couldn't remember who was going to get killed or for what. And so I'll give you a heavy hint here. I'll give you a very heavy hint. In the interview that we released, the three-part interview with Pete Peterson, we eventually released it. The most interesting part is part 3, because that's the part where he kept on saying no comment, like a politician at a press conference. And the reason why Kerry was asking him particular questions was, of course, because she knew that the answers were there, because we did the video at the end of this 12 hours of off-record audio. And the reason why he was getting testy with all of this was because he thought that those questions were not going to be asked. So every time he says, I don't know anything about that, just ask yourself why he would say that, and then appear to get irritated until Kerry went on to the next thing. So what you need to do is you need to listen to that or watch that video again, then listen very carefully to Kerry's questions, and this provides you with context.
Right. Yeah, he said, basically, he called me up, and this was during the time when we wanted to release the interview. It was all done, all edited, ready to go. And this went on for, I think, a month. And finally, near the end, I kept calling him, and at one point he called me, and he said apparently someone had seen the interview. And to this day, we don't know how they saw it. He says they hacked into the YouTube site. But if they did hack in, they had skills and so on. But what they didn't do is they didn't release it on YouTube. Like normally a hacker wanting our stuff or something would hack into the YouTube thing and then distribute it on the web, like before we were ready to put it out there. But this person, or whoever they were, Pete says there were several, called him up and said, I just saw your interview, and basically complained about me, which is what people do a lot of times.
Can't imagine why.
And they said, you know, and so what Pete said, he tried to use reverse psychology on me. He said to me, you know, Carrie, you look really bad in that part 3. You know, you should really get rid of that part 3. He said, because you kept asking me questions and I kept denying it. It just makes you look bad. And so that, you know, I said, thank you, Pete. I appreciate that, but I'm not going to, you know, do away with part 3. It was very interesting. So in essence, it's a denial, but the information is there. So you just have to follow that out. And there are no superficial statements. It's quite revealing. And that's true not just there. In dealing with Henry Deacon, Arthur Neumann, who is now in kind of a reclusive stage, like whistleblowers get. They come out, they're brave for a moment, then they go back in. And that's what's happening with him at the moment. He's also trying to restore his health.
Let me tell
he would play games with us. It was amazing, the number of games, mind games. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, it seems that these people who have worked in black projects love to play mind games. There's someone else in the audience today loves to play those mind games. Yeah. Gives us information, tidbits here, tidbits there. Part of the thing is they're protecting themselves. If they came out and said exactly what it was and laid it all out, they'd be dead the next day, and so would you or me.
But the other thing that they're doing, and we reference this to the Jake Simpson article. It wasn't an interview, it was a report that we wrote up. Jake is one of the deepest insiders who we have ever interviewed. If you've missed that one, because it wasn't a video or an audio, then go back to this, because he really does know stuff. Earlier on, we had people on this stage who were talking about technology being 100 years ahead. I think Alex Collier, from memory, said at one point it might be 1,000 years ahead. Jake said it was 10,000 years ahead. Jake said it was 10,000 years ahead and advancing, accelerating away from us at the rate of 1,000 years per public sector year. And that stopped and made us think. And one of the things that Jake talked about, and I witnessed this for myself, was an extraordinary surveillance system that operates in hyperspace. We're not saying anything more than what we've said on our site. And we can't say very much about it. One of the reasons for that is because we don't understand it. But one of the reasons why some whistleblowers talk in riddles is because they're trying to outsmart this surveillance system. They make jokes, they talk in slang, they make little references to things in movies, they do things in little bits here and little bits there, and then they figure out that this extraordinary facility that exists that isn't infinitely powerful, but it's kind of, in human terms, it's pretty awesome. Actually might not necessarily get the wind of everything that's happening, because there's this wonderful aspect of humanity that is able to understand somebody based on little clues here and little clues there.
Well, Pete Peterson would call it the information field. Actually, what we're really doing, I mean, you have to think about this. We are telepathic, all of us. So if I sit in a room with you, as I'm doing here now, but what if it's one-on-one? We're exchanging information that's not verbal, obviously. But it's not verbal on many levels. We're not just talking body language. That was the most superficial level. We're talking the unseen level. And you're getting information just by being in the presence of another human being. We are exchanging information all the time. And it's fascinating. It's, you know, if you start looking below the surface. And so when we get involved with whistleblowers, that's also going on. And it's become, I have to say, over the last 3 years and beyond, we've become better at it. And we're getting very good, I'm going to say. And we get affirmations that we are on point, okay? Not only from the whistleblower themselves, revealing the information maybe a few moments later in verbal terms to what we were tapping into mentally, or it goes vice versa. They're tapping into us and telling us information that we're giving them, or that other whistleblowers have told us that we've got in our mind. Jake Simpson can pick that out of your mind and tell you it. It's an amazing skill. These people have been trained, as Duncan O'Finian has been trained. Now, you all have that capability, and some of you are using it now more than others. Some of you are more conscious of it than others. So don't be in denial over that. If you're getting information and you're not used to giving acknowledgement to that unseen world, to that information field that we're all a part of, start opening up to that, because it is out there. The truth is out there. I'm sorry to, you know, to be so repetitive on that level, but it's so amazing, and I see so few people doing it. A lot of people get really literal. They want you to tell them in words, one word after the other after the other. Information, the information field is not linear. It's all around us. So you can get a massive download in a matter of seconds, because information comes in huge packets. It's not linear. And it doesn't matter if you can't go down and cite a text in a book. Now, where did the book come from? Where does the book come from? Another human being, right? And where does that human being get that information? Another human being. And so on and so forth. So you've got that going on. You want to trust that? Well, okay, fine. But I'm saying there are other levels. It goes beyond that. Just because it's not printed in a book or you didn't see it on TV, and I know you know this, but it's like, let's get down to it. We walk up, we greet somebody, you like them, you dislike them, you don't know why, this, that, and the other. All the information's coming to us at every given moment. We have social rights that make you play games that prolong the facade, okay? And what we want to do is begin to break through that facade. And when you're dealing with a whistleblower, you actually have to begin to break down all those preconceived thoughts and notions that you have about reality, and then you can cut to the chase of what they know, because once you get information, just like you guys sitting in a room, have you ever tried to go back and talk to your family about it? It's almost impossible to have a word-for-word dialogue about what it is you guys know. Now, on the other hand, if you go with your family, and you go somewhere with them, and you hang out with them, and every once in a while they say something, and you're talking about, I don't know, fishing, and you might say something about the nature of fishing. But what happens is you two are exchanging knowledge on many levels. And eventually, that family member who you thought could never get it, they're getting it through osmosis, through the information field of being around you, is telepathically being picked up by them, because again, we're receivers and transmitters. So they'll get smarter just by being around you. It's a phenomena. Now, the powers that be know this. Okay, so they want to sequester you, they want to keep you separate. You know all those little groups, those in-groups? Get rid of it. What you want to do is you want to put yourself out there among the people that don't know and just let them get the knowledge that's seeping out of you. Pretty soon, the smarter you get, the more it comes out of every pore. And everyone gets smarter. The whole planet gets smarter.
It is true that what the controllers want to do is to keep us in little ghettos. This is a word that I learned to use in this context from Steve Bassett, Paradigm Research. He's a friend of ours. And he talks very intelligently about how the UFO community has been ghettoized. And what happens in a ghetto, basically it's a little enclave of people who share a common predicament, and they talk to each other, and they don't communicate outside of their ghetto because they're stuck in their ghetto, they're trapped in their ghetto, and they just talk to each other in the ghetto all the time. And this is kind of what happens in this little, I won't be so specific as to call it the UFO research community, because of course it's much more than this. It's that it applies to people who are interested in free energy, alternative health, people who are interested in like the 9/11 truth movement. There are efforts to ghettoize us all. And as long as we think, well, it's okay, I'm just talking to my friend who agrees with me, and he's talking to me, and everyone talks to each other, and we have all this kind of agreement going round and round in circles, that doesn't actually make an awful lot of difference, because to change the metaphor, this isn't the way to spread the potato washing among the monkeys to reach up to 100. Okay, those of you who know the 100th monkey story in the island of Kasumi in the Japanese Sea back in the 1950s.
We're actually at 3:05, so we actually have to finish up right now. It's amazing how the time flies. What I've been doing here, I know. What I've been doing here, maybe we can take a couple, is what I kind of want to demonstrate this sort of thing that I'm talking about, information packets. He's talking, I'm flipping through the slides, and you may say, God damn it, she's so annoying. Why is she going through those slides when he's talking, you know? We get weird messages, you know, oh my God, she interrupts. And I have to say that, you know what? You are capable of taking in information so fast. We cannot talk fast enough to keep up with how fast you take in information, okay? And the more you're in touch with your ET lineage, the more you're going to tap into that and become capable of that, which means you can do things simultaneously. You can think of things simultaneously. 2 things at the same time, you can think of them. 3 things, 5 things. It's amazing the capability that you have. You can expand your mind in many ways. It's actually a literal concept. You can expand your mind. And so what I'm doing is I'm messing with you, and I'm messing with people that I interview. And I'm messing with Bill, and I'm messing with myself, and I'm messing with the whistleblower, because the whistleblower has been programmed. Do you understand that? I don't think a lot of people realize we're dealing with a programmed being. Actually, almost everyone is a programmed being at this point on the earth, except for a few lucky few that start to break down, break through, start to become awake. And hopefully most of those people are in the audience. But you understand that only way to break through that programming is to shock them a little bit. So if you've got a little train going down the track, one predictable linear thought after another, boom, I interrupt. Because what I'm trying to do is mess with them to get them to give us the goddamn truth. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it works incredibly well. Incredibly well. There's a point at the Pete Peterson video in David Wilcox's part at the very end where I say something and Pete says, I didn't say that. And I said, no, I said that. And he said, but if you say that, you're going to get killed. You're going to have a visit, is what he says. You're going to have a visitor that you don't like. Jordan, you're just about on Jordan, don't go away. And he says, and you will not like it. That's his way of telling me that I'm going to get the men in black coming to my door. Well, they're not, haven't come yet. Hello, I'm still here. You know, come get me. I don't care. Don't you get it? I'm eternal. Go ahead, kill me, try it. There's many more where I came from. You know, we're creating them every day. We're recruiting right now from the Illuminati. You guys out there, you're in a box. Free yourselves. Come to Camelot. We'll help you do it. And that's about it. We have a time for a couple questions.
Jordan's here.
And Jordan is going to do a presentation.
Jordan, if you can forgive us, we're going to take a couple of questions. Jordan, if you can be with us just for a second, hang on tight, because we're going to take a couple of questions from people who...
And maybe Jordan has an answer or two as well. Go ahead.
And don't go away, just stay right there. And we're happy to take a couple of questions because we did promise it.
Here you go.
Needs a mic.
Test. Yeah, I'll speak very quickly. I'd just like to say I've followed Project Camelot for as long as I've known about it. I think it's a very courageous effort to interview various people and to furthermore synthesize the information from a number of different perspectives. Your slide at the very beginning asked the question, you know, what is the plot? And you postulated that it's impossible to know. I don't know how to convey this to you, but I think I know what the plot is, and I'd love for you to mess with me and see if it vets out.
Kerry, that's an invitation to you.
So we can talk offline.
Well, first of all, I want to say that I wouldn't postulate it's impossible to know. I would say it is possible to know. In fact, I'm one of those weird people who thinks it's possible to know everything. I think that we are all God. We're all parts of God. Therefore, we have access to everything.
Let me just clarify. You mentioned that you didn't think there were sources available out there, and I would agree with that. I guess my method of knowing would be a little bit unconventional.
Go ahead.
It doesn't sum up in a few minutes.
Oh,
but
okay.
it has to do with actually the formation, the origin of heaven and earth, the formation of man, who human beings are, who they've come to be, and that these so-called powers that be that really shouldn't be referred to that anymore because they've become outmoded, and they themselves know that as this multidimensional cosmic change is taking place, they are just as scared as you are. And perhaps should be even more so because the pyramid structure that they've been occupying and regenerating is actually inverted. They know very clearly who they are from a spiritual context, from a physical context, and they in their minds believe that they are the antithesis and that they have a solemn mission to spread darkness and destruction and
Right, well, we know this.
Adversity to spiritual cultivators.
We all know this. Thank you. We appreciate that, but we do know that. The whole crowd knows that. Alex Collier just got done talking about that.
I want to hear from the guy in the blue cap because I know he's going to ask a smart question.
Okay, black. Well, much love and thanks to everybody on the stage. Learned a lot and much gratitude to you. The Pete Peterson interview and the Pete Peterson instrument that is supposed to be coming up for sale, what's going on with this? Did you guys actually get to physically see it? And on the website, last time I looked, it just took you to the main web page if you're trying to place an order for it. So what's going on with that?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, Pete Peterson talked about his inventions. That's one of them. We don't even know if it's really for sale. We're trying to find that out. You have to understand that since we did the interview, our lines of communication with Pete have been rather limited. I've had some conversations late at night just in general, but as far as his inventions, we have to pin him down on those things, and we haven't yet done that. So I'm sorry to say that we don't know the answer to the question. We firmly believe, because his level of detail is so complete, that the invention is real. But whether he has them mass-produced, if you have them ready, whether we're going to be able to actually put them on our site and make that possible for him or some other way, I don't know.
David's here. We could ask him to say a word.
Well, let's let Jordan.